Did it on purpose.
No. Revelation chapter 6.
Yep.
We're getting right on along in Revelation, but we're not getting along as fast as I wanted to because I find such interesting stuff, and when I'm studying it, I just don't want to leave it. Tonight we're going to be talking about animals. Somebody asked me one time, are there going to be animals in heaven? And I think tonight we'll answer your question, because we're talking about horses. We're talking about what Jesus comes back on. We're talking about what they're coming out of heaven with, what John saw. He saw horses. Now he knew what a horse looked like. You know, I told you about the planes and stuff. He didn't know how to describe them. But tonight we're looking at a special time. We've gone up to the point now that the church is raptured out. John was carried off into heaven, and he's seeing things. And you remember last week we talked about he saw something that made him cry, because there was a scroll that had 7 seals on it. And no one in heaven or earth or under the earth was able to open the seals. No one was worthy, no human, except one that was a human, and that was Jesus. And so Jesus, as we see now something that's about to happen, I still try to remember to tell you, you're not going to be here. You're not going to be here. You're already gone. We went with the rapture in the 4th chapter. We went with the rapture. So what John is seeing here is what's going to happen on this earth after we're gone and the Holy Spirit's taken out. And tonight is very interesting. I'm using 3 different things tonight in case one don't work like this one's trying not to already. I got it right there. But anyway, David Jeremiah wrote a book called Escape the Coming Night. And he wrote this book in 2017 was the first copy, right? No, 1990. He revised it in 97, 99, 2001, and 2018. And he said by the time things that he even wrote in 2018, he said by the time this book is published, things will be happening on the earth that you're not used to. Things that you've never seen before. Not talking about us being raptured out because we're still here, but he's talking about things that are precursors to what's going to happen in the tribulation. There was one article that I read, and I'm still thinking on it. It says after the rapture, you know, the Antichrist comes on the scene, and then there's going to be a 7-year tribulation. And the question come up, well, how much time between the rapture and the Antichrist coming on the scene? The Bible don't tell us. You know, it may be a year, it may be 6 months, it may be the next day, it may be the same day, but the Bible don't make it clear. It just says after the rapture, you know, and now that's where we are tonight, is one of these seals is getting ready. We're gone. John saw what's happened, and now here's 7 seals in a scroll, and they're going to be opened one at a time. And each one of them is a judgment. And I want to look at tonight at least the first 4 horses, the 4 horsemen. You've heard it called, I think there's a book written called The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And that's what we're talking about tonight. He said, I watched as a lamb opened the first of 7 seals. Did you see it? The lamb opened it, Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God, the only one that was worthy to open those seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, come. And I looked, and there was before me a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and it was given a crown. And he rode out as to conquer, bent on conquest. Now, we can take them one at a time. What did John see? He saw somebody on a horse, a white horse. It had a bow in his hand, and he was given a crown, and he rode out to conquer. A lot of people want to put Jesus on that white horse. And Jesus is coming on a white horse, but he's not coming till chapter 19. And when you start studying and you look into Greek for crowns, just like the crown, this rider here was given a crown, and in the Greek of this is called a Stephanos. That means a crown made of, like I made one, I made me a little wreath with my grapevines. And usually in competitions back then, when they were running races, that's what they got. They got a crown, and it was made of wood, vines, and whatever, and had flowers all in it. And the only other crown that was made of wood and vines was a crown that they put on Jesus' head, a crown of thorns. But this is a Stephanos. It's just a wooden crown. Don't have any value to it hardly at all, other than it shows that you won the race, that you won the prize. David Jeremiah wrote that a Christian youth was killed in a plane crash at the age of 18. It said prominently displayed in his parents' home is a picture of him running on the track team in high school. It said inscribed in the photo are these words from 2 Timothy chapter 4, 7, and 8. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I've kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day. And not only me, but also all who have longed for his appearing. So what awards will we get on that day? Are we going to have awards? We talked about that. We're going to have crowns that we lay down before the judgment seat of Christ. We won. And our crowns are also going to be Stephanos crowns, made. There was only one crown, and we'll see it in chapter 19, the one that Jesus wore sitting on a white horse, and it was a diadema. We sing the song about diadems, and that's a crown. But it's a royal crown, and it's one of a kind. And that's the one that Jesus will wear because he ran the race, and he was the victor, and he's going to wear that crown. Now, this white horse, I don't want you to get confused about the white horse and who's on that white horse. It says that here was a white horse that John, and the man sitting on it was clothed like a royal king. He had a crown on his head, and he had a bow. What's the importance of a bow? Now, some people say, well, he's coming to conquer. They say it's Jesus. No, it's Satan. It's Satan, the Antichrist, sitting on that white horse. And he's given a bow. Now, what does a bow represent? What did God put in the sky? Put a rainbow, didn't he? It was a promise. It was peace. And a bow without arrows, because it didn't say anything about arrows being on this bow. He just had a bow in his hand. So he's going to be coming to the earth as a peacemaker. He's going to sign a peace treaty with Israel. He's going to be the peacemaker. That's why he's got a bow, which is a sign of peace, but you add the arrows to it, and then it's a sign of war. They don't say anything about he had a bow in his hand. He's coming in a peaceful way on that white horse. But turmoil on this earth is going to be worse than it's ever been. When we're called out, somebody's got to step forward and tell them where we went. The Antichrist is going to be able to do that. He's going to have that much power because the Antichrist is part of Satan. He's a copycat of Jesus. They're going to call him, actually, the Messiah. The Messiah has come on the scene. We hadn't seen yet, but we've heard so many times about the temple being built on that mount where the Muslim shrine is now. And the Muslims wouldn't have it. They're not, no, that would be flat no. But when this man comes on the scene, they're going to listen to him. They're going to move that out of the way so they can build the temple right back where it was, because that's where the Bible said it's going to be. But this white horse, picture this. Number one, God's on his throne. That's what John saw. There's going to be people There's going to be so much confusion going on after the rapture. People are going to be asking the question, where's God? But people have the same question today, don't they? Where's God in this situation or that situation? God's where he will always be. Where he's always been, he always be, and he always will be, and that's on his throne. He's on his throne. And in his right hand, he had this sequence of events. He had this scroll with 7 seals. Jesus just opened up the first scroll. And when he did, the white horse appeared. It's dangerous to start reading articles and listening to some of the pastors that are saying this white horse in Revelation chapter 6 is Jesus, because it's not. It's not. It says this rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. And that's what his ideal all along is going to be, is to go have a peace treaty with Israel. After 3.5 years, things are going to change. It's going to be all about him. He's going to even say that he is God. Then another horse came out, a fiery red horse. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and make the people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. So when Jesus removes this second seal, when he tears this seal open and he releases this second seal, the angel's going to summon that second horse. It wasn't John that was saying come. They were telling him to come. You know, some Bibles, if you read some versions of Bibles like the NIV, it says come and see. But that's not what it was written as come. They were talking to the riders on the horse. It's your turn. It's your turn to go to the earth. And the red horseman not only is about nations rising against nation, but kingdoms against kingdoms and individuals fighting. Do you think family problems are bad now? Wait till then. Talking about people fighting against each other, friends fighting against each other. It's going to be a time of murder. It's going to be a time of assassinations, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of revolution. You know, back in 1989 in China, the young people had a revolt, and the Chinese government just wiped them out. Happened on June the 4th, 1989. They just wiped them out, killed every one of them that they could kill until they settled them down. That was a piece of cake compared to what's going to happen during this time when this red horse is turned loose on the earth. Question to you, are wars increasing today? Yeah. Some people say, well, we've always had wars. We had 2 world wars in one generation. Every day now you see where some country is threatening another or some country is fighting another. And since World War II, there have been more than 300 wars, hundreds of political assassinations, rebellion for independence, and also revolutions to take your independence away from you. You know, it's a backwards world we live in. You know, everybody was, you know, we just did July the 4th, our Declaration of Independence, and now they're trying to take the independence part away and you be part of the government and working for the government. It's a leading up, a precursor to what's going to happen. Because a lot of these things can't just happen. One world order, the microchips that's now, and I've heard people before, you know, say, I'm not having a microchip put under my hand because that's the mark of the beast. No, it's not. The mark of the beast isn't going to come till the last 3.5 years of tribulation. You're not going to be here. Now, you take your phone and you walk up to a gas pump and you go, or up to something else, you're going, it might as well be under your hand. But a lot of people, even Christians, say, well, I'm not getting anything put under my skin, you know, but you use your credit cards. You use your cards now, you just scan them. You don't even have to punch them in anymore. So you're working into that system, and what it's doing is working up to that. So when the time comes, there's only going to be 7 years. for things to take place. Maybe a little longer, because I told you between the rapture and the Antichrist revealing himself, there may be some time. There may be a year. There may be 6 months. We don't know. The Bible don't tell us. It just said he's coming. So we're leading up to those things. 20 years ago, you could look back and say, we are far, far from being where these things could take place if the rapture happened today. And even though I said it may be a year after the rapture, before the Antichrist comes, everything's getting in place now. Did you know they've got every piece of furniture, everything that they need to put back into the temple as it originally was, is already built, sitting there waiting? It's already ready. We're close. We're close. People don't like to hear that. I just have to tell it because the Bible tells it. So we do have wars that's increasing. We do have a lot of independence right on, and we've got some trying to be taken away by revolutions, whether it be political, economical, or whatever. It's trying to be taken away from you. One thing they're really trying to take away from you, and it kind of happens real slow, and before you realize it, it's there, and it's already happened. You can't do nothing about it. They're trying to take your religion away from you. They're trying to take your rights away from you to be able to come into this church tonight. And if you don't see it coming, you don't know how to stop it. But God does. There's going to come a point where God says, well, you don't like my church, they're coming home. He's going to look over at Jesus and say, go get your church. And then we're gone. And then this starts. Everything that we're talking about right now has started. The first seal was open. The second seal was open. This was talking about war. Matthew, Jesus even said, for at this time there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now. In other words, you think it's bad now? Jesus is even saying, wait till then. You've never seen anything like it. And it will never be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, is what Jesus said. So, how will those days be cut short? A lot of questions to look at. A lot of questions answered. Look at the third horse. Have you ever been hungry? Anybody, really hungry. Have you ever woke up and you hadn't eaten in a couple of days? If you've ever been in the hospital, you've been hungry, I know. Because they don't feed you good food in some hospitals. Now, I was fortunate enough, if y'all ever want to go to the hospital, go to Rex. They got a menu, you call in what you want to eat and they bring it to you. Unless you're there with your heart, and they got little heart menus too where you can eat. But have you really been hungry? I can remember back when I was a little boy being hungry. Really hungry. And it didn't, you didn't get a lot of food. I can remember sneaking a cold iced potato and a piece of cornbread out from under the cloth on the table about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can remember the time when, and you do too, and you probably thought the same thing I do, I'll be glad when I get old so I can go sit at the table and eat while the children's playing, and then let the children come in and eat. That's the way I grew up. The grown folks stayed there, and I was scared to death they were going to eat everything. They were going to get that last chicken leg before I got in there, or they won't be going to be. But my grandmother was a good cook, and she had plenty for everybody. And I don't know how we survived, because after we ate lunch, here comes what they called the cover that goes over the everything that was on the table was left: potatoes, cabbage, collards, cornbread. Put a cover over it. And I've been hungry before. So hungry I didn't get enough to eat for lunch because I was too busy wanting to go outside and play again. I sneaked in and I got a piece of cornbread, cold cornbread, and a cold iced potato. And I've also snuck in and got a biscuit and stuck my finger in it like that and poured molasses in it. That's when I was hungry. So yes, I felt hunger before. And I'm sure you have too. That's being really hungry. You're not able to satisfy your appetite, and your stomach aches because you hadn't ate. But The average American today throws away, and it's so wasteful, and I know you've seen it, and I have too, in restaurants. They come get your plate, and I try to empty my plate. I couldn't empty it today, I'm sorry. Them mashed potatoes weren't good. They were out of a can or something. I like fresh taters, but I didn't eat all of those, and that's the only thing I didn't eat. I ate everything else they put in front of me. But the average American throws away enough food in one day to feed a family of 6 in India. What you throw away? And I've always wondered, these restaurants, when you see them, just hauling food out and they're throwing it away, or go to McDonald's and get the wrong thing in your bag. Instead of getting the Egg McMuffin, you got a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, and you say, this isn't what I ordered. What do they do with it? They throw it in the trash can and give you what you ordered. We live in a wasteful America. It's not what we used to live in, waste not, want not. But here's one that'll really get you. I love my dog. He's a good dog, but dogs have a higher nutritional value in their dog food than most of the people in the world, especially in third world countries. My dog eats better than they do, especially the protein part of it. So here's a black horse. He represents famine. He represents that short food supply that's coming. I don't know, some of you may, I know we got food stamps now, but they also had food stamps during World War II. That's the only way you could get food, was to have that ticket, stand in line and get your food. But this black horse represents famine, and it represents a famine that I don't care what I tell you about the way it used to be or the way it is now, you've never seen it like this before, the way it's going to be. It's going to be a famine. People are going to be hungry. Why did he say? Because he said when that third seal was broken and he unrolled it to that next event, he said, I looked and there before me was a black horse, and this rider was holding a pair of scales in his hands. He said, then I heard what sounded like the voice among 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages. Do not damage the oil or the wine. There's several things in that one verse right there, wheat and barley. Well, you see, on the wheat, 2 pounds was a day's wage, but on the barley, it took 6 pounds for a day's wage. Rich people, poor people. Poor people's going to eat the barley, wheat. Rich people eat the other wheat. Now, what about the wine? What about the oil in the wine? They're not going to mess with the grapevines. They're not going to mess with the olive trees. Why? Because they're very expensive, and that's what the richer people live off of. So don't bother that yet. I did say yet. Don't bother the grapevines, and don't bother the olive trees. Now, talking about, I'm a quote here from David Jeremiah. He said, a quart of wheat is the least amount of food one person can eat and survive. The wage earner will take his day's salary to the central government market. One world order, remember? Going to take it to the central market and be measured out his ration. You can't get any more. That's all they can give you. You might have 2 days' wages, but they're only going to give you 1 for that particular day. So you ask yourself a question, what about the children? What about the people that's not working then? Because there's going to be a lot that's not going to receive the mark of the beast in the last 3.5 years. And when they don't have the mark of the beast, they can't even go to the market to get anything, buy, sell, or trade. You're talking about being hungry, they're going to be hungry. So how are they going to sustain their families back then? Starving people out scavenging for food. Holy Spirit's gone. What are they going to do? Brian? They're going to kill to eat. They're going to start killing each other. just for food. They can start killing each other, steal somebody's food that happens to have some. Of course, the rich and influential, they can have their oil, they can have their wine, they can have gourmet food, they can have a lot of things. Now, that's even during the tribulation, that's building up to that last 3.5 years, where if you don't take the mark of the beast, even the rich and influential are not going to be able to get anything unless they take the mark of the beast. Now, when we go back and say, anybody living then that they want to put a chip under you, and that's the only way you can buy, sell, or trade, 666, that's the mark of the beast. Happens in the last 3.5 years tribulation. We'll get there later. But we're going to see great world leaders that are able to stock their shelves, have what they want, and the poor is going to starve. That's the black horse. When you see that black horse, the world's population will start dwindling. And then we look at the last horse we want to look at tonight, which is the pale horse. When the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and there before me was a pale horse, and its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. Now, John here is seeing two persons. He's seeing Death riding a pale horse, and Hades was following close behind. What kind of power do they have? They can have a big power, because it tells us in the Bible they're going to kill a fourth of the earth by sword, by famine, by plagues, and by wild beast. You ever thought about, and since I mentioned wild beast, they're going to get meaner. You know, they can kill a whole lot of people. They can be hungry too. But have you ever thought about Noah's time? Noah had to put the lion and the lamb. You know, and the Bible talks about there was a day coming when the lion will lay with the lamb, and they're not. The same thing happened on the ark. They didn't have to worry about the lion killing the lamb, because God took care of all that. I can see Noah right now trying to close that door because it's raining. Him and his sons trying to pull on it. And here comes God walking right up to the ark and closed the door. That same God controlled those animals to where they live with each other. And even after they come off the ark, there was a period of time when they still didn't kill each other. They still live with each other. But there's coming a time. It's coming a time when death and destruction, animal rights activist was talking about tree rats that come into his kitchen, ravage for food, because these activists said they have a right to live too. I'm not that activist. If a rat's in my house, he ain't gonna make it. If a mouse is in my house, he's not gonna make it, because my cat's gonna get him. But animal lovers are everywhere. You see it more today than you've ever seen it. I saw a picture today of a dog that broke my leg. I was a little boy, and the dog was sitting there with three of us. It was an old picture. I was going through some old pictures, and there was Buttons. Now, I was 2 years old. My brother was 4 years old, and I broke my leg. And the story was that I had the dog by the rope, and the dog went that way, and I tried to go that way, and it twisted, and my leg broke. But that didn't make sense. The doctor asked me at the hospital, "Tell us what happened." I said, "My brother hit me in the leg with a tobacco truck round." Now, he still won't admit it, because I asked him again the other day. I said, "Did you hit me with a tobacco truck round?" I said, "I can't see where a little 2-year-old boy would tell a doctor you done that if you didn't really do it." He said, "I don't remember." So, but anyway, I saw a picture of that dog. We love animals. I can almost tell you every name of every animal I've ever had. And yeah, there's animal lovers everywhere. But there's famine coming. There's disease coming. there's even a disease that was here at one time that was caused by rat fleas. Come off of a rat. Jesus said all these things, he talked about in Matthew 24:8. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. It's just beginning. It's just starting. This is just a preface of the tribulation. The worst hadn't even got here yet. We've already seen 4 things happen now. We've seen the Antichrist is coming on the scene as a peaceful person to start with. And then we've seen the red horse, which carries death. And then we've seen the black horse, plagues. And we've seen this pale horse. And it said what was following him? Death and Hades. And, that's not really a welcome guest for the tribulation period, is it? But it's there. And it's happening. And Jesus said this is only the beginning. So we asked ourselves the question tonight in Matthew 24. Jesus concluded his lesson on the future tribulation, telling a story about a fig tree. And the parable reminds us, when the leaves come out on the tree, we know that summer's near. The lesson indicates that future events will cast a shadow on what's to come. And that's where we are today. Because we know it's coming, and we can see things happening now that are preparing for that time. Now, the good news is we don't have to be here. We don't have to be here. We understand prophecy. We understand what's going to happen. We understand the Great Tribulation. We understand this period. But we as Christians are not supposed to worry about it because we're not going to be here. If you want to worry, and I always say don't worry, and then I worry some myself, but if you want to worry about the ones that's going to be left here and what they're going to have to go through. But we're living in that time of Gentiles, as Daniel talked about, and we're going to be taken away in the twinkling of an eye. But there's going to be people here. There's going to be Jews, Gentiles. There's going to be people that thought they were Christians, but they didn't really live as Christians. There's people today that say they're Christians and don't believe in Jesus, but they are the new Christians. Just believe in God. Well, you can't believe in God without believing in Jesus. Jesus is God's Son. But they say you can get to heaven by just believing in God. Watch what you listen to. How shall we escape, according to Hebrews 2:3? How shall we escape if we ignore so great a salvation? People do. They ignore what salvation really is. Next week, we're going to pick up opening another seal. Probably open 3 more. That'll be all of them, 7 seals, but they 7 of a whole lot of things coming. So just be prepared. And let me tell you, this is just the beginning of sorrows. It's just a little bit. It's going to get so much worse and so gruesome, especially the last 3.5 years, that it'll really put you to thinking, please don't let any of my family be here. How shall we escape if we ignore such a great salvation? Any questions or comments?
I'm depressed.
Well, you see, now, I'm glad you said that, because you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be depressed.
I know, but
The book of Revelation, as I always say,
who's left here?
I know, but the book of Revelation, as I always say when we first started studying it, it's not written to scare you. It's written to prepare you. Because we're not supposed to be scared. Oh, death, where is that sting? We know where we're going. But yes, we know there's going to be people left here. Now, we need to do our jobs. Warn them. What did Noah do and nobody listened? He warned the people. He's sitting there building an ark. What are you doing? I'm building an ark. What for? Because it's going to rain. What's rain? They didn't know what rain was. He said, God's going to destroy the earth. And they laughed at him. Now, we've got a story right here in the book of Revelation. We say God's going to come back. He's not going to destroy the earth this time, but he's going to take care of a big problem. And it's not going to be good. It's going to be, as Jesus said, as it's never been before. We're warning people, and what are they doing? They're laughing at us. Same way they laughed at Noah. They're laughing at us. And when we compare those two, what do we say when we first started? What was it going to be like? Jesus said it was going to be like it was in the days of Noah. And that's where we live right now, in the days like it was in the days of Noah. And we're even asking ourselves the question tonight, can it get any worse? Can it get any worse than it is right now? Yes. In the last days, evil seducers shall wax worse and worse. There's nothing I can do, nothing you can do to make it a happy time. You can make it a happy time for you, knowing that you're going to heaven. 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not walk. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me into paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And listen, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because thou art with me. Jesus is with me. Go right through that death part too. He's right there with you. One day we get to live in the house of the Lord forever. Praise God. I'm done. Jimmy, would you dismiss us, please?
Heavenly Father, come to close this day and close this service again. We thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, Lord, for the word we've heard. We thank you for standing to go. Just ask now, Lord, to watch over to lead God today. Bring us all back in the next point in time. With Christ's name we pray. Amen.